Howdy.
Patna. Welcome to another nosedive of an episode crashed and guided by your lovely interns, Lucas and Riley.
Interns were on time. They just got distracted.
See, Chris, what you don't know is we're in the back in the green room and we see the chat going and we're just like, we'll make them sit for another minute or two. We'll sip this coffee a little bit, go over our brainstorm ideas, because although this is highly unscripted, we do want to make sure that we don't have any audio silence, lulls, repeat ourselves, or just overall have an uneventful, boring episode. So as much as this is 100% unscripted, we are in the back making sure we've got a loose plan. What's up, Summer? How you doing?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Ish. Morning, Steven. Morning, Jen. Morning, Chris. Everybody who's here. Good morning. Good morning. We love you all. It's pretty cool to like be sitting in the green room and see people like pop in, like waiting, like already like ready to rock, you know?
It's awesome. Yeah. Oh man. I mean, makes this a lot more fun than if we were just talking amongst ourselves.
Right. And I do need to sneak this in here, and we haven't talked about it, but my schedule at work is going to change in the next couple weeks. So there's a good chance that this show will move to a different day.
Good to know.
So just throwing that out there. Want to preemptively burst your bubble now.
Yeah. Keep me updated.
Yeah. We'll let you guys know. Unfortunately, I'm at the mercy of, how I pay my bills, of course, which is the day job. So yeah,
indeed.
Yeah. But one way or another, the podcast will still go on. It'll still exist. It'll still get put up on all the platforms and everything. And
be funny if it ends up being whatever day we have to move to. If Eric can't do it, but Owen can, that would be funny.
Well, the thing is, oh, dang it. Unfortunately, it'll be a weekday. But you know what we could do is we could push it back later by a few hours. And what that does is it actually opens up time zone for the morning Australians to join in, like Scott.
That would be good.
Because right now it's about 3 a.m. over where Scott's at in Australia.
Right.
So
carpets and second cups of coffee.
There's give and take. There's pros and cons. There's ebb and flow. We're just rolling with it. Yes. Maybe one day the network will be financially self-sufficient with corporate sponsorships and contracts and all sorts of stuff, and we'll all have full-time contracts for this, and this will be our day job, and then we'll do this every single day, But that until then,
pretty damn cool.
I see a lot of the guys that do professional podcasting for fun they have guests on or just really stimulating discussions, and it's just seems like having conversations with very intelligent people and absorbing that and discussing it and understanding more. And there's nothing kind of more engaging than such a topic. So I think it would be fun. But
100%. That would be
just along for the ride,
Yeah.
I got the coolest fortune cookie the other day, and I don't put any weight in fortune cookies. I already know they're like mass produced and printed somewhere and dished out everywhere. But, sometimes those mass produced corporate fortune cookies just kind of land in the right place at the right time.
It's like a Snapple cap kind
of. Yeah, exactly. We're aging ourselves now. But it said you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And it was kind of coming around right that time where like things are just getting good, even better, settling in. It all feels right, So
man,
I'm not trying to move past this moment to get somewhere else. I'm just trying to enjoy the ride.
That's the sweet spot of life right there. I'm happy to hear that. That's fantastic.
It's cool, man. I hope everyone can find that sometime.
I think that I would be feeling pretty close to the same way if it weren't for my update, which is that I have mono.
Yeah.
So I really need the coffee these days. I'm just a walking sleep person, but
we'll get you right and out of that rain sometime soon.
Yeah, it's all good. It
just
could be worse.
Staring at Asphodite, you'll stay awake.
That's right. Yeah. There's plenty of worse things to have. So
yeah.
But I think it's kind of funny because it's that sickness that everybody has when they're in like middle school and high school, and then in college you're like, oh, you're kind of late to the mono game, and then here I am. Like,
see, I never had it. My brother did though. My brother got it. I think my brother got it twice.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
Extra brutal.
Well, he was a popular kid. What can I say?
There you go.
I was the dirt ball skating in like ditches and like always scabbed up and beat up with long greasy hair and just little skate rat. So I avoided
Yeah.
it. But
I thought I was gonna avoid it, but
well,
there you go.
it's just another life lesson to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, plenty of worse
Hey,
things to have. It's kind
yeah,
of
like
funny.
COVID. Yeah,
Exactly.
you could
And
have
then
COVID.
there's
That'd
some
be
humor
worse.
in that, like hiding from COVID for an entire year and a half. And then as soon as I poke my head out of my little bunker, it's just like mono. Just like get back in there.
Get back in there.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
what are you
Oh
gonna
well. Yeah. Just take it as it comes, right?
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but still life goes on. We had a good day at the shop on Saturday. Still made it
yeah.
out to SAC to hang out and clean cages and see the birth of some womas. That was awesome.
Yeah. So Brett, right as you said Woma,
Yes,
Brett
Brett
popped in.
emerged from the mist.
Yeah. So Saturday was a good morning at the shop as far as the breeding season's going. And so we went to pull the blackhead eggs that were they were on day 58. And so we were just going to manually pip them just to make sure things were good because some of the eggs were looking a little crummy. And we just opened a little window in each one. They all have live, healthy babies in there. So there are 3 blackheads that should be exiting those eggs in the next week or so.
Yeah.
So that was pretty sweet. And then the surprise when Grant comes out was that the first clutch of womas from the normal banded female were starting to pip on their own. So 2 of those babies were out. I haven't followed up. This was a couple days ago. They're probably all out by now.
They're out. Yeah.
But
that was so cool. And for me, like that's the first time I've ever seen in person womas coming out of eggs, womas being born. I've seen it with like colubrids and king snakes when I was at the vivarium, but there was something different about that. It was so cool.
And then
just right out
cool
the
is
egg
that they're sitting in the bin, like already squaring off of you, opening their mouths, tongue flicking, biting, just like ready to scare off a predator at like a few hours
spicy.
old.
Exactly. It speaks to the environment that they're born in the wild. You don't have the luxury of being a baby. You have to be ready to throw hands.
Yeah, exactly. So Brett, I know you're listening here quite keenly, but this is not the reduced pattern Woma female. Her 12 egg clutch, I'm going to be completely honest, one of the lids on the egg box got knocked off briefly, and so it got a little over aerated and we lost a few eggs, but there are still what looks to be 7 eggs that we left going. Definitely 4 that are perfect, so we're shooting for 7 for that one and 7 for the other one. 14 womas is pretty good if that's what it ends up as. 14 womas and 3 blackheads. So
yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, obviously those eggs for both of those species are notorious for being tricky to hatch. And I happened to be in the shop that day that Grant discovered that lid issue and that little bit of dry environment. He basically, what he was saying is that had to have just happened within the past 24, 48 hours. It just happens quick. If anything gets out of whack with them, it's just an instant problem, it seems.
Well, now we've got those sim containers in at the shop. So I imagine we'll be doing a lot more with those and trying those out for some of the trial and error within those species. So, but needless to say, more Aspidites on the ground.
I will say too, I only got kind of the quick glance because we didn't want to mess with them too much. But what I did see of the blackheads, there's some nice pattern in those eggs. One of them in particular, I keep going back to the picture I took, had just really clean, thick blotches. I can't wait to see what they look like emerged, because if they look like mom and, dad a little different, but he's pretty good looking too. I think there should be some really pretty babies in there. Yeah.
It's funny. The more blackhead talk I'm around, the more I see it. I'm like, shoot, these things are freaking kind of cool.
Yeah, they
I'm like, oh, great. Get obsessed with another large python you don't have space for.
I know. I'm gonna shoot over. If you want to share it, I'll shoot over the picture I'm talking about where you can see some good banding.
Send them over. We'll pull them up.
Man, I'm so excited.
There we go.
Would 14 womas be the shop record? I know Grant's hatched them
Yeah.
in the past, right? But
Yeah, it's always been one clutch in the past and just like a couple things here and there.
that's so awesome. Such nice animals too. I think both clutches are gonna have some really standout animals.
So
Yeah, look
there's
at that.
yeah, there's the first.
It's just a little peak, but it looks so clean.
Yeah. First signs of life, the first blackheads born in the shop. First shop and this shop, period. So
That one is the one I'm really excited to see.
yeah. So that one looks nice. And then here is another shot of a different egg
And so
that was
this,
still sitting on the polyfill. This
yeah,
was the egg. This was the first one we cut open
exactly.
that has like a partial boob eggs section. It was really deflated. It had sort of kind of gone. It was the one that we were super questionable on.
I thought that egg was probably not going to be viable, to be truthful. And right after he manually pipped, that baby moved. It did a kick, and that was just so cool. Like if that one's gonna be okay, then the other two are definitely gonna be okay.
Oh yeah,
because that one was the shadiest looking egg of the bunch.
Yeah, but you know what they say, some crazy stuff can happen out of funky looking eggs, and if it's a good egg and it's next to moldy eggs, it's not going to go bad. I've got a clutch of coastals right now where one egg's tanked like immediately, and I just left it, and all the eggs are perfect around it that are touching it. They're all fine. I never sweat a bad egg anymore. I haven't really had any issues unless it's like a really nasty aggressive mold and things are like too wet. You should never have to worry about that. So
right.
So yeah, that'll be cool. Now we wait for the blackheads to emerge, and we'll sex them and figure out what the ratio is, and then you and Grant figure out.
Yeah, we'll have a little.
What.
It'll be a short and sweet fantasy draft.
yeah, exactly.
He'd take that one. I'd take that one. All done.
Yep. And then the Womas will come, and Grant will figure out what he wants to keep, and I'll figure out which ones I'm cherry picking, and then we'll sell the rest.
And then me and Brett will throw down for.
Yeah, you guys will.
We'll
have to have like an event where you guys get together, and like we'll have like a triathlon of sorts.
Okay, shoot. I mean, if I get to wait for the mono to clear to compete, I'm in. I would lose right now because I can barely go upstairs without. Yeah, and then let's touch on this. Bob Evans, do you recommend the polyfill substrate? You wanna touch on that real quick?
So my recommendation, if you want to use the polyfill substrate, is make sure you're using enough so that the weight of the egg doesn't compress it down and still get it near the moist substrate. If so, the idea is it's essentially what a sim container is. It's just instead of using a rigid a rigid surface for the eggs, it's a more cushioned contoured surface, and it doesn't wick up water because it's plastic based. So you can have all sorts of water or whatever you want underneath it, but you need to have a dry layer on top. So using some sort of cocoa blocks that are really wet, or some sort of hatching media underneath that's really wet, and then the polyfill, what it does is it contours nicely to your eggs, but it doesn't wick up water. But you need to make sure it's thick enough, so you need to make sure you have a big enough egg box if you do that. But it's great. It's a really kind of like DIY sim container sort of thing, so it's pretty nice. I use it. I've been using it this season. I've got Crebo eggs using it. One of my Crebo egg boxes I oversaturated and didn't have enough polyfill because it was a small box, so I ended up shifting that one, but I've got 4 eggs on that are going perfectly, so I like it. Next season, what I'll do is I'll just make sure I use it with bigger egg boxes, I guess. So
yeah, for sure. And on that topic too, just kind of in anticipation of actually having eggs for the first time, I've been testing different methods in my incubator. I've got 3 different methods going right now with a goatee in each one to see. Like, I was kind of hoping that one of them would not work so that I could rule something out. But so far they're all like achieving the right results. And so the first one is, and 3 different kinds of boxes too. Like, I was trying to do some science here and figure out what I want to do, but they all seem to be working, which is like I guess that's a good thing, but it's also like shit because
Yeah,
what the
you
fuck?
got it too dialed in now.
Yeah, so I've got the one with super wet perlite and the layer of polyfill. So basically GX3 method, but I didn't have cocoa blocks, so I just did perlite.
Right.
And then the next one was just the perlite and the light diffuser panel, just super classic basic,
Yep.
and that's totally working too. And then on Saturday I picked up one of those sim containers that's at the shop now, and I did just water and polyfill to keep it from splashing, like we were talking about. And that's working great too.
Yeah.
That one I will say has the most condensation. Even though I did have the polyfill, I think just still so much, water in there is still causing little droplets. So maybe that one's the one that is least good. Maybe I should try perlite in there, but
so the trick with any droplets on a lid is tilt your box, put a pencil under the back or something like that, so it all rolls down.
Yeah.
If you're having issues with that and you already have eggs in there and you can't really make major adjustments on the fly, do that. But yeah, I would say that method is probably the one that has the most volatility.
Yeah, I would agree based on what I'm seeing. But, in terms of at least the numbers, I've been tracking it on the little Bluetooth app that the Gobies can pair with. And yeah, my temperatures are sticking right around where I want them, and humidity between like 97 and 99.9. So I feel like I'm ready. And soon the snakes will be too, because we've got 2 ovulations in the room now for Brettles, both hypo het stripes. So apparently double hets hate me, but the other ones are doing just fine.
Yeah, there's one of them.
There's one. It's just starting that ovulation.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty obvious to see how taut and swollen her back third is. Her posterior is pretty
thick,
pretty dense.
She thick. Yeah, and that's one snake that hasn't eaten for me in weeks. It's been off food, and also the only one where I haven't seen any locks, but that just goes to show, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. I sleeped. I can't watch all the time, but yeah.
I hear that.
So super exciting, and I still have faith in one of the double het females, but then that fourth one is definitely just not doing it. And
I'm like 99% certain my Bradley is like not going. Didn't get cold enough.
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
For sure. I'd say that's probably true.
I was only able to
did the best you could do.
Yeah, I didn't want to kill the missus's plants in the bathroom by dropping it down that cold, because I was, I got it down to 64, but like that's nothing,
Yeah. I wonder maybe if next year, if you really want to give that a go, but you're still in the same spot, maybe you could chill them at the shop or something with the other stuff there.
Yeah, I better not be in the same place next year.
Yeah.
God damn it. No, that would be really bad. That would be really bad. I would be forced to get rid of a lot if I was in the same place, because by that time I will have 2.2 Apodora here.
Yes, you will, which is dope. Some captive bred in that too. Holy shit.
Yeah. So as everybody knows, I'm obsessed with Apodora, have been for some time. My male that I got from Dan Leary last year, right before COVID hit, who was an imported little baby, like still had the umbilical slit, was super, super tiny, like the tiniest I've ever seen. Didn't even know they started out that small.
Yeah.
Like small enough where you could see visibly where the heart was. And so he's like 1.5 years old now, and fantastic animal. But obviously it was like, well, I need to get more. And, everybody who's listened to any of the podcasts and stuff like that has heard that Eric bought a pair of U.S. captive born and bred 2017 animals from Kevin out in Illinois when he hatched those for the first time then. And unfortunately, along the line, his male passed. And somewhere along that line, Eric's focus began to sort of evolve and shift, and decided that he would send me his captive born and bred female as sort of like an indefinite breeding loan, and just keep that project going. Well, then it also turns out another mutual friend of ours is in possession of a pair of Apodora from that same clutch who's looking to move them on for space reasons as well. And I have since bought those. So those will be coming in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, man. I mean,
yeah.
there's just captive U.S. born and bred Apodora. That's not something you're gonna see all the time.
and lately I've been seeing a lot of people posting successful clutches and hatching of Madagascar giant hognose and things. So I feel so much better about moving that group to Owen, seeing that other people are having success, because that was the whole point of, trying to figure them out, was to make sure that they're still at least somewhat represented in the hobby. Now I'm seeing a bunch of people with them for their own interests and everything, and it's great to see. So I don't feel so bad about sending those off on breeding loan to Owen indefinitely. So that'll be Apodora cage. I'm shipping out my proven coastal Axanthic later today to a friend of mine down in SoCal who's finally taking the plunge into Morelia. So
nice.
Very happy for him. Very happy for him. He's, he's good with big colubrids. So this will be, I think, an easy transition for him. So I'm happy to send him her and a holdback coastal of mine. So that opens up a cage for Apodora. Then I've just got to figure out where the fourth one's going to go. So
right on. I mean, yeah, we talk about it. I think we hit on it pretty extensively last week. Just, finding out where your passion lies and going for it, and I think that it's probably safe to say that you and I are both kind of trying to do that to the best of our abilities, you with the Apodora and me with blackheads. And, I'm so excited for you that you're going to have that group and just be able to like devote your hobby time into something like that, which is just, a monumental task.
I foresee it really forcing me to be even more and more selective over the next 5 years with my Morelia group. There's a lot of things that I've put a lot of time and passion into with my carpets. And then there's a lot of the et cetera stuff that keeps my passion there by being novel, So I hope to never have to limit myself to that point. I hope, obviously my ambition is to get into a house this year.
Right.
So, space will open up at that point. And I know that's a terrible thing to plan upon with big snakes. It's not the best plan. Like, try and plan ahead and be better than I'm doing. But the problem is I am afflicted with a very deep blood-borne obsession. So it's not going away. So I can't help it.
And this was, obviously it's easy to justify things and we do it to ourselves all the time. But in this case, it really was like a must do. Like, you're not going to come across that again. Yeah.
If I said no to that, I would have lost friends. I would have lost the respect of so many people. They'd have been like, dude, you're just one of those talkers and not a doer.
We all know that you needed to have those animals.
Yeah. And as soon as I verbally committed to it, I didn't have the buyer's remorse where I'm like, shit, I shouldn't do this. Ish just pulled a trigger on an MIA jungle. Good for you, man. You won't regret that.
Those are beautiful.
My female just shed. And man, that's a different type of jungle. Their face is rich black, bright yellow, but then the body is just natural. It's interesting. It's not like anything else in the United States that I've seen as far as that look. I'm very excited for that project. That's another thing that I could never get rid of, because that's new jungle blood. And my
and they're gorgeous.
Yeah. And my striped jungle project, I've got several years of work going into that, raising up animals, holdbacks, a lot more I want to accomplish. There's all sorts of stuff.
For sure.
I want to make more albino citrus tigers, but with higher citrus tiger blood in them down the line. I want to do more of that. I want to keep going with the jungles, and I don't know. There's just too much stuff. I love super zebras, you know how it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess I'm a little bit fortunate in that I'm kind of finding where I want to specialize before I really have my stuff built out, right? I don't have a full room of animals yet where I have to, necessarily cut back to
Mm-hmm.
add. I'm just kind of being really careful with what I do add
Right.
with the little bit of space I have left. But, you know, even with that said, like there are still things that I'm having to look at now and kind of reevaluate, like with my stonewashed girl. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think I've talked about this before. She's great. Love that animal, but with two adult pairs of double hets, you know, I'm gonna be producing stonewashes from those animals, and you know, I could hold on to her and do some different things with that. You know, I could end up pairing her with my full blood hypo het stonewash stuff later and make 50% hypos to
Yeah,
offer like
man.
a lower tier of, you know,
People are
hypo.
really getting into Bredli these days.
100%. So like it's a situation for me with that where it's like I'm not gonna sell her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want her to go away,
Right.
but she also doesn't have as much of a purpose in my plans as
Sure.
she did before my bread light group expanded like this, when Nick decided to be a super nice Nick and send me animals. So, you know, with that being said, I'm what I'm planning on doing is just gifting her to a really good friend of mine, one of my biology coworkers who is getting really into Morelia. And like, that's kind of the perfect happy medium where she's not going to be
You
here.
can still access her
Exactly.
if you
She's
want to
not
do
going to
some
be
breeding.
here. I won't have to have a big cage for another big adult brettle squirrel because they're not small snakes.
Mm-hmm.
And but like you said, if I ever decide that I want to try something out with her, or that I ever need her back, or even if I just want to go through and say hello, you know, and
Yeah,
you know, see that animal
absolutely.
as an animal that I've raised, I'll be able to do that. So,
Yep,
you know, something like that is kind of a good little happy medium as well. If you have friends, you know, you don't always have to
that's
sell it to
true.
the stranger on Morph Market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. I'm getting to the point where, like, in order to make room for things, it's, do I sell that animal that I've raised forever, that was like a coveted animal that I finally like worked up and got, and now I have it, and now it's like I'm gonna get rid of that? Like,
Right.
I don't like being in that position.
It's tough. It's
Yeah.
not an easy decision, right? Because that's when you really feel the difference between people that collect things that aren't alive and then people that have living animals, right? Like
Yeah.
if we were
Yeah.
stamp collectors or whatever the hell collectors and we needed to make room, it's kind of an easier decision than when they're
Right.
living, breathing, and you've raised them from being a baby. You know, there's a different
Exactly.
connection at that point, or at least there should be, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's difficult. But it is what it is, and if, like you said, if you've got good friends, you can sort of find a happy middle ground somewhere and make sure they're at least going somewhere where they'll be loved and appreciated and you always have access to them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that, you know, Eric obviously is really big on too, and I'm kind of getting why at this
Mm-hmm.
point. You know, there's
Mm-hmm.
there's certainly a
It's
big
more it's more
pro.
fun. It's more comfortable that way. You feel better about the decisions and the people involved, and it's a lot more agreeable.
Yeah, and we
It's
all
just
have those
yeah, of
people for the most part, you know, that are just getting into this thing that you want to support. You know, you want to kind of feed their fire a little bit and,
course.
you know, steer them in the right direction. So when you do have the ability to do that, it's a super cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to get rid of stuff when you have aesthetic value, but you know,
Yeah.
like I've got animals that are 10 years old that I've raised up from babies. It's like I could never get rid of that snake. No way.
100%.
No
Yeah.
way. So what does that mean? More space and dealing with tetrising and maybe, a room that doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as it could, but yeah, it's just you can't keep it all. You gotta really ask yourself what you really want to work with. At the
Yep.
end of the day, what's the the hard line in the sand. So
100%.
and
Yeah.
then there's the people who like really focus and like they've watched from a very early standpoint and only done one thing and they've really dialed themselves in on one species or something. and they just kind of knock it out of the park. I'm not sure if Shane Adamson works with many other species, but I think it is worth mentioning that Shane Adamson got a clutch of Halmahera scrubs. So
Very
Tracy,
nice.
yeah. So looks like 6 good eggs. That's, I think, like the 4th or 5th time that species has ever been bred in captivity, period. Mm. So that's a pretty big deal.
That's awesome.
And
that is awesome.
We in the Morelia world love our sister species of Somalia and Aspodites and everything. So this falls in there. That Morelia traceae or Somalia traceae. I'm not sure what the most up to date is. He's got it written as Morelia traceae. I don't have a problem with it. Call it what you want. They're beautiful. I think that's freaking
badass.
Cool. That's cool. That's another species. I'm like, dang, that's awesome.
Right.
Oh, so looks like Shane produced Sabus too. So
nice. Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Halmaheras, the thing with them is that they are a smaller scrub, right? Yeah. But they're just very high strung and reluctant
and they don't have red babies. They don't have red neonates like the others too. So you talk to Rob Stone about that, and he kind of has this whole hypothesis as to why, and then it proved out to be accurate.
Nice.
So
good old Bob Rock.
Yeah, Bob Rock. So yeah, it's cool, badass. Dude. I really love sitting back on the sidelines and seeing so many cool species being bred. It's hard not to like want all these cool species,
For sure. Have you ever had the scrub itch? Have you ever thought about diving into scrubbies at all?
I pondered it when I went to Brandon's house and played with his at Carpet Fest a few years ago, and we've got a patternless at the shop right now that's kind of interesting.
He's spicy.
And yeah, he's not bad though. Like if you understand how they work, you just know how to turn off that food response a little bit and just avoid it. And so they kind of remind me of like big carpets. And if I'd have found them earlier on, I think for sure I would have had the bug for them. And then I'd be even more conflicted today.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. So, the ones that pique my interest are those Wamina scrubs. Those ones super pretty, stay a little smaller. That would be what I would try if I ever dove into that.
See, for me, if life were perfect, warehouse, funding, resources, space, time, etc.
MPR Serpentarium.
Yeah, if I were to do that, I would go for the biggest damn barneck I could get my hands on. That's like seriously, like anytime Rob Christian over at Nerd is posting his barnecks and shit, I'm like, dude, I get it.
Yeah, I get it. No, they're incredible animals. There's no doubt when you see one, it's just like it captures the eye. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, and Ryan brings up a good point. The pattern in Southerns is really cool. It's about as close to King Horny as you can get. The Australian like 15 footers at like big tanks, like those are badass.
Yeah, I think that so cool. I will accept being wrong and continue to say King Horny, just because I will laugh every time I have to say that if it's King Horny. Yeah, King Horny Reptar behind you. Look at him.
Yeah, that dude's king hungry. Always. Dude is king hungry all the time, huh, buddy? Such a good wizard.
Alex Oliver, let's see some baby citrus tigers. We're definitely going to do that eventually.
Yeah,
we got to check those out.
Well, so let's ease into that. Let's kind of, there was a segment I kind of wanted to like work into that.
Okay.
And I was hoping Owen would have funneled me a reference at this point, because he had mentioned that he had seen some post about somebody posting something about an IJ jungle jag and thinking it was like pure or something like that, or like in somehow, shape, or form trying to deny that there was no coastal in it, which is just that's where the jag comes from.
Right. Yeah.
It has to have So anyway, yeah, there's some new folks getting into the hobby. It seems that maybe don't have a full grasp on some of the labels and what they reflect as some are crosses. So anything that has the word jag in it or anything that came from a jag pairing has to have coastal in it. I don't care what else is in it. That's just how it works. It's the same thing with albino. Anything that has albino or het or any lineage from that has Darwin in it. And the asterisk with that is, yes, there are albino coastals in Australia. There is one individual who has them. 0 people will be getting them. And I have it on good authority from some folks in Australia that those will never, ever leave certain hands, because if you're a morph person or you have friends who are morph persons, he won't let you have those. He won't even let people photograph them, so he doesn't risk intellectual property being stolen, somebody else trying to scam other people, which I fully respect and understand. And so basically what I'm trying to say is probably never in the next 30 to 50 years will albino coastals leave this individual's hands or enter the United States. So with that out of the way, anything that any carpet pythons in the United States that are albinos or het albinos, they all have Darwin blood in them. No arguments. That is fact.
It's a fact. That's where it comes from.
How it works. That is how it works.
Yes.
The same, and Ryan brings up a good point. Same with ocelot. However, there are several lines of ocelot. There are some folks working with pure line bred ocelots that are just jungles, but there are folks who have separated the ocelot gene from the ocelot jags, which means there's coastal origins. You really need to know which line you're talking about, who they came from, i.e. Mike Curtin or somebody else. So just, there's a lot in a name in carpet pythons. There really is a lot in a name. Right. So when I say albino citrus tigers, what that means is they are coastal Darwins at the very least. The citrus tiger is a coastal project. Albino is a Darwin project. Like there's no debating that. There's
if you hear albino Brettles, it's not just a Brettles. You know,
correct. Yeah, that's another great example.
Same idea. Example. That's going to have Darwin in there.
It's Darwin and Bredli cross. That's full species hybrid. That's like
that's another level.
Yeah, that's the line I don't cross. But anyway, there's a lot in a name. Now, if we wanted to really simplify it, or if we're putting it in writing in a way or in a forum where there'll be newcomers that maybe don't know that yet, to really explain that in a name, for an albino citrus tiger, I would say a citrus tiger cross Darwin albino, or maybe 25% citrus tiger, 75% Darwin albino, or something like that, you know?
Right.
So you could go either way. There isn't really a standard right now for the hobby, but there sort of is. It's an unspoken standard. So when somebody says zebra jag, you know that's a zebra, so it's jungle, and a jag, so it's coastal. So you know it's a cross. An IJ jag.
It's a cross for now, like Brandon says.
Well, yeah. So until the new carpet python book comes out. Well, yeah. Well, you got to wait for the book to come out, and then you got to read the science and the validation. It's all going to be up in the air. That is very true. We'll see what happens. But for now, this is where the classification stands. And then what has to happen is when the book comes out, I think, it'll be obviously peer reviewed by the scientific community, and we'll see if it's widely accepted or not pretty quickly. There will always be people who won't accept taxonomical changes, and there will be people who strive to stay as up to date with the taxonomical relevance as possible, but you can always disagree on the science. So
absolutely,
we'll see when that comes out.
We'll just have to see.
Yeah. I'm excited. I love the books. I love hearing that it's going to be bigger. I love hearing that there's going to be new photographs, more elaborate subjects and things. I'm just excited to have another book to read and reference. And it's not going to change what I keep or how I keep or what I breed or how I breed. I can promise you that. So
I can't wait. And even just, obviously everything that was there before is expanded, but then there's also just going to be entirely new stuff, like an expanded section on Owen Pelly. I can't
Right.
wait to read that.
Yeah. That's going to be
It's going to be
fantastic.
great. I'm going to have to lock myself away for a few days when when that gets on my doorstep. But
yeah, it's going to be a great book.
It's probably going to sell out pretty damn quick too.
Yes.
All this anticipation. People can't even get the first one.
Oh yeah. As soon as I see any notice of like pre-order or anything like that, I'm going to try and buy 2.
100%. Yeah, that's smart.
I only bought 1 the first time. I should have bought 2.
And then I'll call Nick and be like, "Will you sign it for
me?" Yeah.
So I'll be like, "Fuck off." No, just kidding.
Stupid kid. Should we look at Citrus Tigers?
Yeah, break those out. Okay. Show us something good.
Do we want to start with hets? Do we even care about the hets?
I think it's all cool, man. Let's go from, in your opinion, least cool to most cool.
Well, I mean,
you got some caramel in there too, don't you?
Well, so here's the thing. Like, there's a lot of Darwin blood in these babies, so they're naturally, coming out with some red neonatal colors and copper eyes and things like that. But yeah, their blacks are not black; they're brown. The tans are very caramely, and of course, they're striped. Woo. So, it's hard to say what's at play to give them this color. Is that because of the Darwin? Because Darwins have very red bellies.
Right.
So this one I have labeled as just a citrus tiger het albino. And because it's only 25% coastal, there's a lot of Darwin blood in these things. So the hets, like, in my opinion, I think show a lot of that Darwin influence. But then there's some that are just this creamy caramel washed out color. So there's a lot that I suspect are caramel citrus tigers. But then when I compare them, I'm just like, I don't know. They're like, obviously once they shed, I'll know more.
Yeah. That was a beautiful snake though.
They're
just
cool.
From the get-go.
Yeah, they're really cool. There's a lot of variety. The nice thing is literally everything is striped.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, every single one of these animals is going to be nuts, regardless of what it is or how it looks. This one's like the least striped, but it has it's like striped all the way down the back half.
Mm-hmm.
It breaks up, it gets banded.
Nice.
And that one I suspect is a caramel because it's very like tan and orange, like a different color. So I don't know. Obviously, once they shed, I'll see more.
More will be revealed.
Yeah. So, depending on what they shed out and how they look, I don't know if I might keep one het female or something like that. It just depends what comes out. I don't know. No, that's not the one I wanted to show off. It's kind of sad to say it, but out of the 6 albinos, there's one that like I can't see the pattern as well, so I'm not going to show that one here.
Sure.
Just because like you can't see it on that one. But the neat thing is the ones that I suspect are caramel albinos, they're like there's purple to them.
Huh.
Easy killer.
Yeah, look at that. That's just nuts. It's a worm.
So this one also has quite an aberrant sort of stripy pattern. Don't pee on my computer.
Oh, pee
on my laptop.
Not ideal. Yeah, and it's a little bit trickier to see, obviously over the webcam, but those pictures that you sent to the chat, you could see, despite that really light color, that there was that stripe pattern and some cool stuff going on underneath that'll probably come out with each shed. So
yeah,
and they're going to be gorgeous.
Some of them, the side patterns are all connected and they look all obliterated, and we're all wrinkly. I hope these things shed soon. Oh, by the way, Jeff was asking how long are those pop ones going to shed? Bro, I've got some that still haven't shed, and they're like 3.5 weeks old. So hang on to your butt.
They're taking their time.
So this guy's It's all
Nice.
wrinkly, starting to near his first shed, but you can see kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see that stripe for sure. They're going to be very
Yeah, they're just
clean.
gonna be nuts. Clint lost his laptop with a retic peeing on. Oh man. Well, yeah, retics pee a lot.
Yeah.
Baby carpets, it's like a few drops. I
That'll be
wipe
a
it off
whole
with my
water
hand
bottle
and we're
right there.
good. Yeah. That would be an expensive. I'd have to sell that retic and then tack on the cost of the laptop.
Another reason to not have retics.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, those monstrous snakes. Let's stick with my carpets. Yes, this one. They're all wrinkly. Easy. This one is the purple and orange candy cane looking. I don't even know. No, don't pee on the computer.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Just silly.
They're gonna be nuts. I can't wait to see them after a few sheds.
Yeah.
And this is a project that obviously Eric has been working on for a long time, and then now you're able to kind of get it to the next level. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Chris Salemi also has some citrus tiger stuff pairing with some albino Darwin stuff, so he can also make some of these. I think he tried this year, and I'm not sure if he had any luck, so he will probably make some too. But yeah, I mean, Eric really bought that whole project and took it and ran with it and cleaned it up, and then also took part of it into an albino project and has the pure stuff as well.
Right. And I know you keep saying that you can't breed Darwins, but I guess you can kind of half breed Darwins.
I know. I wish I could.
If there's 75% Darwin in there.
Yeah, I wish I could just. I think I just got my albino Darwin too big, too young.
Honestly.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think she's just a big fat.
She's like, Meh, I don't want to do anything.
Like she's so lazy, she doesn't do anything. So I'm not going to feed her at all this summer. That's going to be her new cycle. Is she's not going to eat for the next 2 months.
Yeah, see what happens.
And then when she does get back on food, it's going to be like baby meals. Mm-hmm. And maybe that'll cycle her into shed or into wanting to breed this season. So she's got to justify her existence because after Laura, so that's a valuable 4-foot cage right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
yes, sir.
So there's always that need for space and the evolution of it all, and now rodent prices are super, super expensive.
Dude, they are. It's brutal. It's so expensive.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not enjoying.
Medium rats are worth their weight in gold.
Dude, I feed off like 20 small rats a week, and it's bad.
It is.
I just have too many snakes.
I know, that's why it's good too to have the cycle feeding thing down, because at least it's a temporary pain, and then you're like, you don't eat until fall, damn you.
Yeah. My thing is I've just got too many projects that I just I want to do everything.
Yeah.
It's not good, man. It's not good. I think I can see myself eventually having my room where I just have the Papuan pythons, and I'd probably also maybe move the Cribos into that room, given the climate things I would do. But and then Papuan carpets, jungles, gotta have those. I love Bredli. I need to breed them. So
you have some nice ones too.
Which ones?
Your adult pair.
Oh yeah, they're so nice.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. The male reverted back to his monstrous "I'm going to kill you" ways yesterday.
Man, I can't relate. How did you do that to those animals?
What? Do what? I handle them. I'm gentle with them. I feed them. They're pampered. Dude is in there, and I was just checking on him, and I was going to change his water, and he's trying to go after my hand. I'm like, stop. And then he's literally going after me. I had to pin him and get him out of the way. Dude, he was just being a monster. It's I had to use a hook with him. I'm like, you suck.
I think they are a species that hook training is a really good thing to do with.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, for all of mine, feeding response, obviously it's strong, it's there, but as soon as I like doink them, they're like, okay, never
Yeah.
mind. And
Well, my het stonewash from Owen is super chill, and my stonewash from Alan is super chill.
wait. A chill snake from Owen?
Yeah, yeah, friendly.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So,
That's
damn
funny though.
snakes.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still waiting to see a mean one. Again, the only thing in here in my entire apartment that wants to bite me is that one super orange Woma.
Yeah,
Everybody else is
Oklahoma.
trustworthy, except for that new thing that I'm going to keep a secret for a while.
Yeah. That thing's
Mr. You know who sent the video and said she's a savage.
She's a beast. She's a bitey beast.
I might have some exciting news, fellas, but I'm not going to say anything yet except that. So everybody can chew on that for a few weeks. And everyone can probably guess.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they could guess, but they'll never know, like truly know. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Got to get another quarantine cage.
Yeah. So speaking of caging, did you want to give folks updates on that cage situation?
Yeah, probably should, because that's something I've been talking about for a while now and I was excited about. But yeah, people that have been following the show probably heard me talk about wanting to add some 6-foot cages in my room for some of the bigger animals. And I had a couple ordered that I was really excited to grab, but unfortunately life happens, right? And the gentleman I ordered them from reached out to me recently and is having some issues that go beyond business, and unfortunately it's going to have to close up shop. So he's kind of refunding existing orders and focusing on some more important things at the moment. So unfortunately, those aren't coming anymore, but I'm going to have to go ahead and order some some other ones from somewhere else. And, now it's back to square one of evaluating the options, because...
Yeah. So if anybody has any good recommendations,
let me know.
I know there's black box cages, there's MP cages and exotics. Those are just the two off the top of my head. I know pvccages.com is there, but I don't know if they make 6-footers.
It looks like he's more about the arboreal setups. And I have his cage for my GTP. It's very well done, but I don't know if he does anything that big.
Yeah, obviously Focus Tube is there, but I think a 6-foot cage and doing some stuff, because you're not.
It's not quite my vibe, those ones. I mean, they're cool. They're cool for what they are, but not quite what I'm looking for.
I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah, sure. But it's a little bit of a bummer. I had the space cleared out in my room and I was planning around it, but again, life happens and you got to roll with it. So
and I would say, Chris Foley would be my go-to, but it sounds like he's pretty focused on a major project for Graham, getting cages and things built for Zoophoria. So
right. I know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say he would probably be my go-to, assuming he has no problem shipping and the cost is there and all that. But it sounds like he's going to be busy. Yeah.
And I know Loafman, Zach, got a bunch of big 8-footers from the Cryptic Creations folks, and he was really happy with those builds. So that might be another one to check out.
Good to know.
Yeah. He's getting big ass false water cobra setups going. So
nice. I love seeing that, like, as a result of well, it's maybe not the best way to put it, like COVID is sort of forcing people to get entrepreneurial, we'll say.
Sure.
And the void in the hobby left by some of the cage companies taking a while, or not being able to meet the exceeding demand, has allowed a lot of these companies to pop up. So now you have a lot of options, which is great.
That is the good part, 100%. And it, like it was in the chat. Yeah, ish. AP, if you're ready to wait 6 months. I don't want to wait 6 months, and 6 months is probably best case scenario, for being honest. Like
that is true.
When I was waiting for my baby rack,
it's probably more like a year from them.
When I was waiting for my baby rack from them pre-COVID, when things were probably even less backlogged for them, I had to wait 7 or 8 months. So
I've always managed to find what I need secondhand, which is silly lucky, but
nice.
Yeah, the future will either require me to plan ahead So I'm like taking mental notes of all these cages. Do I want to build my future Apodora cages, or do I want to buy something?
Right.
You know,
Yeah. I
remains to be
love
seen.
like building stuff like that. I love doing that. I just don't really have the means to do it with this
Sure,
apartment setup. You
sure.
kind of need a garage. You need you need a good
Tools, right.
setup. I loved wood shop though. Like in
Well, the nice
school,
thing
that was
is
my shit.
we're gonna be ripping out PVC cages at the shop starting this year. So when the
Yeah,
time comes, I'll be able to just,
dude.
have my own custom cages built, whatever I need, sort of a
Talk about a
deal.
game changer. That's gonna be the best thing ever. Like I'm so excited for that.
Yeah. So what I sort of those will definitely be needed for like upgrades of the collection, but what I'm really kind of envisioning is like Apodora cages that'll be like 6 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet with like 2 chambers in there, so I can have like open and closing access, and I don't know, maybe even 8 foot by whatever. Um,
Yeah.
to give them like enough room to stretch out, some big branches and logs to exercise, climb, get off the ground, some big
Yeah.
hide boxes. Like it's all going to have to be, handmade sort of a deal as far as the decor and the hides and water feature and whatnot. But that's going to be the fun part.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you and I might be Grant's biggest customers when that's up and rolling, because
Yeah.
that's just going to be so nice. And also just for the shop to be able to have a collection of nice PVC enclosures on the floor for people to choose from, that don't really want to be doing the Exoterra thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Because really, unless you're going to order from somebody online and wait a long time, you can't get that from any other shop.
Yeah. I know AP does an 8 foot cage that's like 4 feet tall and like maybe 2.5 feet deep, and like that would be badass. But I know their lead time is just so gnarly, so
it is. Yeah,
it's tough. I guess I don't want it to come off like I'm bashing them, because I don't know the inner workings of their operation. So I'm not even going to pretend to know what's going on there. I'm just saying, as far as my considerations go, I'm not in any rush, so I'm not buying right now. But like,
yeah, no, I got you. I mean, there's no doubt that they're popular for a reason.
I've got a stack of 7 of them, and I love them.
Yeah, the products that I have seen from them are really well made and great, but it's just not practical for everybody to be able to wait that long.
Sure.
That, I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
But as Jennifer Strickland points out, Boaphile, that's Jeff Rowning's company.
I do have one from him up top.
He's been doing that for like 20 something years. I've seen a lot of his products and worked with them in person at other people's collections, and that's a great product. Herptastic is another good cage manufacturer. Aurora mentioned Reptile Cages with a K. I have not heard of them, but I will definitely be looking into them. I love that there's so many options and variety out there, and I think a lot of it is regional too, because just of demands and need in the hobby. We all pretty much know that the hobby's grown exponentially, so the need for these cages has as well. So it's cool to see that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I'll be shopping keeps around. Climbing up on the Vision death ledge and falling.
Some snakes just don't learn.
Yeah, I do not like Vision cages.
I saw Rudy fall at the shop. The giant black dragon. That was kind of funny.
She's so clumsy. We need to put a log right there. Yeah, she just. Yeah. When I'm cleaning her pool, she'll climb in and out the whole time, and she likes to just dive bomb when it's empty. And so she'll go diving in, and I'll catch her by her tail and just like guide her back down gently. So one of these days she's gonna hurt her back.
Yeah, hopefully not. But that's when I heard the thump, I was like, oh God, like.
Yeah. And then the sail fins jumping from the pool out the window.
Yeah, saw one of those too. Funny animals.
Lizards are nuts.
Little crackhead lizards. Yeah,
lizards are nuts. The spinulosis. Oh man,
Grant took those out when I was there.
Listening to the Monitor Keeping podcast, episode 6 on UV lighting with Ryan McVeigh, and I'm halfway through it. That's a fascinating episode. If anybody hasn't heard that, if you want to like nerd out on UV lighting, that's the best I've heard so far. He even says spinulosis are just like little rockets with nails that just come flying out of the cages, and I felt so vindicated. I was like, okay, it's not just me. These things suck, and I'm not wrong. They just fly out, and then they're biting and pooping, and they have the worst damn fish claws, and I hate them. I hate them.
Yeah, they're really pretty, but kind of crackhead energy for sure.
Yeah.
And Grant's all like, "Oh, Riley says these things are nasty. Look, they're great. Well, what do you expect?" And then tried to bite him, and he's like, "Well, that one tried to bite me, but trust me, they're great."
Yeah, they're just little bastards.
Yeah,
Little monsters is what they are. I'm not a fan. There are way cooler monitor species out there. Well, I'm not a monitor guy. I think, so Alan is raising up a female savanna monitor, and when she is showing signs that she is of age and cycling, I'm going to loan him Reptar somewhat indefinitely.
Oh, cool.
Reptar he's getting up in age. He's like 8 years old, so I might let him like retire with Alan if Alan's up for it and wants to commit the space to him. I don't know how long these guys live. He's 8, I imagine he could live another 8 years, but who knows? So Alan, if you're listening, that option's out there. I love this lizard, but I also know that after episode 5 of the Monitor Keeping podcast, when they talked with, oh shoot, I'm blanking on her name. I'm going to pull it up right now so I don't butcher it. Episode 5.
Very responsible of you.
Well, so episode 5 was fantastic as well because they had on Savannah season with Linnea. So Linnea is over in Switzerland, I believe, and she's breeding Savannah monitors successfully. And so it was a wonderful discussion. So Alan has now got even more invigorated and curious in doing so, and I would love to see captive born bred Savannahs.
That would be something that would be great to see. Kind of shift the the paradigm with them a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Alan being more monitor focused, I think Reptar would probably thrive there a little bit more. Just the approach to the way he's keeping things in that building is more monitor focused. So we'll see how it goes. He's doing well. He's sunning his head right now.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah,
they're so cool. I mean, someday I would love to have.
I get my fix at the shop.
Yeah. You get to play with most people's dream lizard with the Bell's Face lace.
See, that's the thing. After playing with those, like, that's all I want.
Yeah.
Like any other monitor, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but it's not a lace.
I get it. No, they're just beautiful and intelligent and just the perfect amount of crackhead. It's what more could you want?
Perenni.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
but that's not possible. So
that picture that Scott posted and tagged us all in was unreal.
Scott, you're a monster.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, that was fair. That was a beautiful, beautiful animal, and he's keeping them outside. He's had them for 6 years.
That's the dream.
Yeah, that would be so cool. Here,
I'll definitely have a monitor someday. It's just not time. It's not my time.
Yeah,
I need to be more settled down.
Right. So here's the shot that we're talking about right there.
Look at that. Look at that eye.
It's a freaking dinosaur, dude. Look at those damn claws on the feet and the back.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, now you know why lizard people's arms are all hacked up like they've been sticking them in a blender.
I love Scott's face in that too. He's just
he looks like a kid.
Joy.
Just pure genuine joy.
Yeah.
Scott's a good dude, man. He calls me every once in a while on my drive home from work, and it's like perfect timing, and we always have good talks. And nice. Last time I got to also talk with Ty on the phone and officially meet her, which was wonderful. They're just such great people and such intelligent, herp loving individuals. Like, we need more people like that everywhere in the country. Like, they're their own country's species champion. Like, Scott and Ty are such an unbelievable depth of knowledge when it comes to venomous, to amphibians, to monitors, to like everything that's out there. Just nuts.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really hope to get to Australia with our little NPR crew and meet them someday. That would be wonderful.
Ish asked if there are perennies in the UK. There are. Thai Park has one. He went through the whole process of having one imported, and then I do believe LA Zoo has some.
Nice.
So
Nice.
they're here. It's just expensive and hard to do. Not illegal, just hard and costly. But yeah, monitors, man, that's a whole nother building requirement right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's it called? Quince?
The Quince?
Yeah, that one that you showed me on Saturday too was also
Varanus,
really cool.
Molinas. Yeah, those are great.
Pocket monitor.
Yeah, he crawled right into the pocket of my shirt and hung out in there.
That was awesome. Yeah. Riley's running around the shop. Look, I got a lizard in my pocket.
Yeah. Dude, it's like childhood dreams doing that, man.
That was too funny.
Yeah, so I get to scratch that itch at work, you know. So
yeah.
Snakes are more my speed. I do have enough going on in my life where I need to not be so tied down to the house every living second. So lizards just don't necessarily agree
with yep.
my lifestyle.
Yep. They're much more on the level of a dog or a cat in terms of what, the level of work on your end.
Yeah. Well, and so the biggest challenge for me right now is I'm still internally wrestling with this this need to have all the carpet pythons, like a representative of each.
Where's your imbricata, bro?
I still need novas, I need diamonds, and I need inlands. Imbricata, until I find a viable source of legal United States ones, like that's just.
I think that
I'll worry about that in a decade.
Yeah, exactly. I think of that list, you should go for the inlands before the other two.
Well, it's funny because I have real easy access to a lot of unrelated novas because there's a lot of those being born this year. So like if I really wanted to, I could easily put together, a founder group of novas. But 20 minutes ago, I was just talking about having too many snakes and rodent costs and things. So like there's that side of the fence, So knowing that novas are around, they're not going anywhere. I'm like, do I get them this year? Or do I just resign this year to Apodora? I need it all, damn it. I need it all. And then there's womas hatching in the shop. I'm like, it's not good, dude. It's not good. Like I really probably shouldn't get anything.
Well, that sometimes that is the answer. You can always come over here and play with my womas and inlands.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. So I don't know. I just love it all, dude.
Yeah. I will say if Justin hatches out some of those AAR inlands this year, though, that'll be tricky to look the other way on. Yeah. It would be cool to have some different blood to go with my Schofield outcross from Nick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I need, it wouldn't be a problem if I had a house.
Yep.
That's it. That's the solution.
Yeah. I mean, that's your next step. My next step is somehow being able to afford both rooms in this apartment and rent the other one for the snakes and then have mine as an actual bedroom.
You got to get into some tech, my friend.
I know it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get this. Well, I got to get through grad school first before I can do anything that will benefit my life financially.
Yeah. So what else were we brainstorming about? We had a whole list of things.
Yes.
We're petering out too soon. It's only an hour and 8 in.
I know. I'm sorry. It's the mono. Blame the mono.
No, it's the intern syndrome when we don't have that third layer of Eric in there. There's only two brains bouncing off ideas instead of a third brain.
Eric is blessed with the ability to just always have a good conversation starter.
Well,
something like 10 years experience doing this with people.
And he talks to so many people from so many backgrounds that do so many things in whatever niche of their hobby they have carved out for themselves. And he's made it a point to get a lot of books and reading material and familiarize himself with so much that's out of like the direct sort of line of thinking when it comes to husbandry of snakes, that he's really got his gears turning on all these sort of tertiary angles to try and figure out like other things he can bring into consideration to care for his animals better or just make it more enjoyable. And it's fascinating because the gears that are turning are very different up in his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, so okay, here's what we can talk about is we can kind of get into acknowledging the fact that the husbandry standards are changing, right?
I would
I think
agree. I
I
think the
think I think
mainstream
yeah,
expectations are
yeah.
not what they were. And in my opinion, and this is probably what we'll get into, it's for the
Hmm.
better, but
Hmm.
continue.
So you're not going to get away from large scale breed production, racks, cages that are, not fleshed out with plants and UV light and all this craziness. Um, I don't think you'll ever get away from that. As
Mhm.
long as there's a huge demand for affordable pet reptiles, that will always be how the large portion of production happens. But I think what we're seeing is more of an awareness and an awakening towards some of the sensitivities in animals and the care and just kind of being a little more, I guess, humanitarian, or I don't know what the word is, but trying to like just be more considerate overall, I think,
Mhm.
and everything that we can provide for these animals. Because even though folks are breeding their pets, they're still their pets. And I think people like seeing that more. I think it makes them feel a little bit better about what they're doing, and you see much more of a push towards, you know, captive born and bred from like really ethical sources of people who do it the way that people like. Um, and it's not always possible, but I do like seeing that there are more people pushing towards that, and
Mhm.
breeding more that way. But man, when I see some people setting up big, decked out, fleshed out cages, I'm like, whoa, that's gonna suck to clean.
Yeah, as a zookeeper and somebody that understands how much goes into something like that,
It's so
it's
much
a
work.
give and take.
You have to maintain that enclosure,
Oh
not just
yeah.
the animal. You like
It's
fluffing
more
the
work.
stubs.
There's no
Yeah, it's a
doubt.
lot more work.
No doubt. Especially if you
So
have living plants and all these
yeah,
other things,
yeah.
every element that goes into that makes it so cool is also more work.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ish in the chat brings up a good point. There's a lot of inaccurate info in literature. There's still publications saying snakes need 90-degree
Mm,
hotspot. There's a lot of stuff
good
that
point.
still has to get kind of like cleared out, get
Yeah.
rid of these old trains of thought, these
Yep.
very outdated ways of
Husbandry
thinking.
dogma.
Yeah, so there is a lot of change going on, and I think we're seeing a lot more research going into it. And getting back to that monitor keeping podcast episode with Ryan McVeigh, I highly recommend going and listening to it, because it really makes me think that at the very least we should be providing all of our animals vitamin A through lighting. And I think you can get vitamin A just out of like LEDs sometimes, but anyway, or UVA, not vitamin A, UVA.
Got it. Okay.
Um, Gosh, where did I get vitamin A? Wake up. More coffee.
More coffee.
UVA seems to be pretty essential to like everything. So it's kind of interesting to hear and see how husbandry standards are changing like that. And not that like what we're doing is wrong or bad, but
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how like what it means to be a reptile keeper, what that looks like in 10 years, or like a hobbyist breeder even. I don't think you'll ever get rid
For
of
sure.
racks. That'll always be a standard, especially for species like ball pythons. But
Right.
I think a lot's changing.
No, I agree, and I think it's a matter of, and we've talked about this a lot, right? Like racks have their place, absolutely. Keeping animals in racks doesn't make you a bad person, and there's plenty
Right.
of ways to do it. You can keep an animal in a more enriched, better environment in a drawer than a cage with just paper and a bowl. Like a
Hmm.
box. It's what you do with the box that elevates the husbandry, not what type of box it is. The box
Hmm.
is a box.
Right.
That being said, I think what we're seeing is just kind of an elevation of the floor, right? Because
Hmm.
you're always going to have people that go above and beyond
Hmm.
and do some incredible stuff for their animals, right? But
Right.
I think what we're noticing, and in my opinion, it's a really good thing, is that kind of that base level of keeping is being elevated a little bit, so that the new people, the people that are getting their feet wet for the first time, instead of starting with their level of care expectations here, you know, it's kind of like, no, when you're getting into this, you need to be starting more about here, you know, a little bit of a better baseline standard. And I think that's only a good thing for a few reasons. I mean, obviously, it should be very clear to us now that there is a difference between really basic setups and setups that offer some enrichment. Reptile enrichment is a thing, but then also if you're a new person and the base level of care is a little bit higher, that might weed out some people that really weren't going to be good keepers in the first place. If that seems like too much work to them to do the bare minimum, you know, that I see that as a good thing too. If, you know, you kind of weed out folks that weren't willing to do even a bare minimum level of acceptable care. That's my thought.
Yeah. And I think the more that people go out into the field and research and see things like womas digging up sand and stuff, I think it also just gets people more excited to keep in different ways so they can see some of this behavior. So I think that's really cool. I think a lot of the arboreal guys already kind of understand and appreciate seeing behaviors from their arboreal animals, like perching certain ways or catching them coming down for a drink or catching them caudaloring on the right and just being comfortable. Like, I think we're starting to see more of that shift.
Absolutely. I know that I've said it before, but for me, what I geek out on the most with my animals is when I see them performing behaviors and activities that reflect their natural history. Because if I'm giving them the opportunity to show that behavior, you know, I'm replicating something properly enough to stimulate that. And, you know, would you rather see your animal just kind of sitting on the paper towel waiting for something to happen all day, or would you like to see it kind of living the life that it was instinctually evolved to live, and give them the opportunities to show you how they tick? Yeah, I think that's so cool.
I see a dichotomy within my room based on my species, and I think it also comes down to how we think of some of these animals, right? Like, we think of pythons and some boas as just tough, whatever. So we kind of just, that's our approach. But like behind me, my Crebos and my rainbows, they have very specific like substrates and lots of stuff going on. But over there, it's a more sterile hide box, water bowl, nest box, a tube maybe, and then that's kind of it on that nice, you know, pulp paper. And it's clean. My animals are healthy. They have everything they need. They're all coiled up, sleeping. They can thermoregulate, do whatever they want. But it doesn't look like a natural, you know, sort of planted cocoa husk, like hide, logs, and sticks, you know. But neither animal is like stressed or, you know, denied anything, so to speak. It just looks different. And
absolutely.
It's two different approaches.
Think that's a really good point too, is that I think that sometimes for people, maybe people that have been around a while and kind of struggle with changing methodologies, I think kind of when you hear enriched or you know, similar terms like that, the first thought is more expensive, right? And I think that it's probably a good thing to point out that it doesn't have to be like, enrichment doesn't have to be the most naturalistic looking fake rock and
an old
like
cereal box that you like.
There you go. Like,
wipe your dirty socks on.
Your leftover paper towel tube, like anything like that. Like these plastic bins, the Brettles use it just like they would a rock ledge. It's a plastic bin. You know, that wasn't that hard for me. But now that I have that and I see that, I'm never taking those things out because the snakes like them and use them. So, you know, you can be creative. It doesn't all have to be zoo level decor, you know, to improve upon what you're doing. It can be something as simple as, like what you said, a piece of cardboard. Something's better than nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just hope that the hobby, with so many more people coming into it from different angles, kind of come into it understanding that there's multiple ways to approach this, and that you know, the whole outrage thing of that we were seeing a lot of, like everybody yelling at other people for the way they keep things online and stuff, is obviously pushed a lot of people away and
Yes.
really kind of putting a sour taste to a lot of that stuff. So some people probably just shy away from showing off their collection entirely. Like
Absolutely.
I don't do videos of my room for that reason, because I just don't want to
Yeah.
deal with,
And I've
somebody with a huge opinion about it, because it's none of their business.
exactly. And that's a fact. I've heard that a lot from people that are, looked up to in the hobby. They don't want to post anything
Yeah.
about their setups because they
Get
feel this,
chewed alive by all these
yeah,
keyboard warriors.
they feel this shift for certain people to, shoot down anybody that keeps an animal in a rack. And it's like they don't even want to share things anymore because they're just going to get, shat upon.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
not a good
where,
thing. It's not productive.
yeah, that's where the understanding needs to come back. And that's why I keep reminding, anyone who's listening that, like, racks are not going away. Sterile keeping is not going away. It has its place. It's important. There's a reason why your snakes are affordable instead of costing thousands of dollars and being very, very, very scarce. Like, accept it, acknowledge it, be okay with it, because that's the reality of it. But I also want to acknowledge that the folks that are doing the natural keeping and push for that, I think that's wonderful. And I think that's a great shift for the mainstream. I think that's, like, if you're a pet keeper keeping one animal or something at home, even if you're buying it from a breeder who does it on, en masse or something, you can still keep it that way. And I've got people who, like, hit me up. They're like, oh, I want to, carpet from you. I don't want a breed or anything. I just want one. How do you recommend to set it up? And I give them completely different recommendations that way,
Oh
because
yeah.
I know they just want to set up a nice display and have a wonderful animal. So there's different approaches, and I have no problem with that. And those people also understand that me keeping in racks and why I do it is important, and they understand that. But there's a lot of people out there that come out of the woodwork and shame people and just
Right.
really, it's an interesting term I've heard recently that kind of caught my attention, and I was a little bit disappointed that there's now a term about it. It's rack raised.
Rack raised.
Rack raised.
Everything is rack raised.
It's a thing now. Like, there are customers looking.
You're gonna put a baby in a 40-gallon long? No.
Yeah, no. There are people who are legitimately, like, taking that into consideration when they're buying snakes. Is it rack raised? It was rack raised, so that's probably why it has a hard time eating. I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
That's
But
very
then I get
misguided.
I get it though. Like, think about it. They're classifying how the baby was born and how it was brought up and how that affects where they buy from, because they want to keep differently.
I guess
Now,
my question would be, what's not rack raised? What's the opposite?
I don't know. I just don't think they realize that most breeders don't have, like, a 40-gallon glass tank for every ball python or whatever it is, and that, like, that's,
dude, they'd die. They would
like,
eat.
you could do one or two that way and, like, have it all customized out in a humid room and do it all and do all this stuff. But yeah, like, where do you think these are coming from?
Yeah, that one, I'm sorry, that one just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the problem with it is that it has a divisive connotation to it. It divides, and it has, like, this implied value that, like, rack raised is not as good as whatever the alternative is. I'm not sure.
That's what I'm still trying to figure out.
Bob Evans has it right here. Free range.
What?
Free range reptile.
I don't know.
I mean, it's just absolutely,
to those people,
ludicrous.
I guess, without getting too judgy and trying to accept that at face value, I think that what I would say to those people is, if that snake, let's say we're talking about a rack raised carpet python, okay, let's go with that. If that snake was born in the wild, the first thing it would do out of the egg is beeline it for the smallest, most compact crack in a rock or hole in a tree or whatever it could possibly find, shove itself as far in there as possible and try not to die. So again, the box is a box.
Yeah, it's just silly. It's just really silly. And I think there's a lot of people who are coming into the hobby and buying animals and listening and coming at it with an open mind and admitting that they don't know. But not everyone is like that. I think a lot of people see some source of information and assume that that's fact, or that's how it all is. And then you get some disconnect and some challenges in communication. And then that's when things go awry. That's when customers are unhappy, or breeders are annoyed, or somebody gets upset and starts venting on Facebook because they had a bad experience, because they just simply don't understand, or the communication wasn't there, and they've just come at it from this assumption that things are different than they actually are, and it can make things really tricky. But
right. And I guess that's where, again, I kind of have to zoom out a little bit, and because the first response to hearing a term like that is like, what? Like, like, that's ridiculous. But then we also have to remember that the people using that terminology probably have nothing but animal welfare on their mind. They're probably well-intentioned and just don't understand.
Yep.
So probably the best way to handle something like that is to just be patient and try to explain some natural history.
Yep.
And some
most people are very glad to learn that information.
For sure.
The natural history stuff isn't necessarily the easiest to search up or kind of find for somebody who might not know enough about that species yet. They've just piqued their interest.
Exactly. And I can almost guarantee it, depending on what species we're talking about, I can almost guarantee if you put a baby rack sized bin, closed, water bowl hide, just take your baby bin, put a lid on it, and then put that thing inside like a 3 foot long and put your baby loose in there. It's going to choose the little bin with the hide anyway.
all day. Absolutely.
Just kind of try to explain that.
It's just interesting. It's really, we really just have to remember that everybody comes from a different place of perspective when they're trying to buy or whatnot.
Right.
But, I heard that term recently, and I was like, ooh, that's an interesting one. That's a new one. It seemed kind of judgy. That was kind of my first gut impression, was like, oh, you're a really judgmental type of buyer if you're doing that. You're going around it's like saying, I'm vegan. I'm better than you. It's like, stop it.
At least with vegan, you know what they're talking about. Like, the alternative is eating plants, but the alternative to rack raised is what?
I don't know.
But anyway,
it's really interesting how customers have changed these days. I sometimes envy how it used to be back in the day, where you get a mailed price list and you have to send them like a postage stamp and like a couple bucks if you want a photo, and they send you a Polaroid in the mail, and then like you're lucky if you get any, like you buy the snake sight unseen. Like, there was no haggling, there was no BS, there was no.
It forces you to wait too,
it was interesting.
Not make impulse decisions.
Now, obviously, I put out a video recently talking about customer etiquette, and
yes,
I kept it rather short. I didn't flesh it out long. I didn't want it to get into this thing. There's so many people that had great comments and additional things to say afterwards that like could have absolutely been brought into the video and made it longer, and is stuff that I didn't think of. And I was like, yeah, that's great. I would say 99% of people agreed, but there was, still a couple 1% response of people who really just, didn't like hearing the reality of how it is to buy snakes these days. I mean, the bottom line of what I was trying to get across was that there's so many people in the hobby right now that breeders really have a lot of people trying to get their animals. They can kind of pick and choose, the easiest route for them, or whichever customer they like. And then the other challenge with that is everybody can access stuff via social media, super digital. And because of the whole texting phenomenon when we were kids, and offhand little slang, little shorthands and stuff, grammar, punctuation, and apparently respect have gone out the window in digital communication. For some, not for all, for some.
Sure.
And I think my whole point of the video was, there's a lot of ways to be a respectful buyer, and there's a lot of ways to shoot yourself in the foot just by not, thinking in common courtesy. And you got to remember that this is not people trying to compete for your business. It's the other way around. I don't know. It was just, it was interesting, and it goes across the board. It wasn't necessarily a Morelia specific thing. And so I didn't want to make it like a huge,
a reptile specific thing either. I mean,
it's kind of sales in general.
What I took away from your video more than anything is just be a decent human being, like have some respect, and just try not to be a jackass. Like that's that's really what it boils down to.
Communicate well. Like I understand language barriers. It's really easy to see when there's a language barrier at play in a text message. It's really easy to see that somebody probably doesn't speak English as their first language and they're making an effort. That's
a different thing.
It's really easy to tell that that's going on, and most of the time those folks will apologize in advance. But what most breeders I hear vent about are the people that lowball them, just come at them and expect that they're gonna deserve the best animal at whatever price break. And just a lot of this entitlement and
those messages with no greeting that just says like, yo, what's cheapest snake? Like,
what's your cheapest snake is like the worst thing you can ask any breeder. Like, don't do that. That's an insult to what they've been working hard to produce. You want a cheap snake, go to a plant store and buy a painted rock with a snake on it or something. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it just, there's a million ways to approach any topic or conversation, and you should always try to pick the one that is the most like respectful, courteous. Like there's no reason to, just because it's through text and you're not talking, there's no reason to just forego like
formalities
being
of
polite.
Introducing yourself. Hi, my name is like,
I mean, it's kind of crazy to say, but I feel like a lot of the reason that I've been lucky enough to become friends with folks like you and Eric and Nick and people that I obviously, when I jumped into this, I didn't know what I was doing at all, but I looked up to you guys and tried to always approach you guys with the utmost respect and be polite, and you just get a better response that way. Like people actually want to talk to you when you're a good person. So I don't know.
The thing with Morelia is it's so exciting when somebody's curious and genuine about learning about the species. It's like, I'd gladly impart some wisdom and share things with you, because if you're going to join the community, I'd rather have you be an informed and positive contributing member of the Morelia community rather than leave you misguided and misinformed and just let you go flounder. Like, obviously we can't help everyone. We're not always available. We have our own lives, but like, if you message me and you're like, hey, if you don't mind, when you have some free time, I have some questions. Like I've had some folks recently doing that, and absolutely I will answer those questions as soon as I have time. Like even if it's quick offhand, I always get back to them. Like not a problem answering that. But there's just an approach. There's a respect. There's manners. There's etiquette. There's a lot to it, and it might be subconscious to some folks, and it might be something that people have to actively try and remember. But there are people who are just not polite out there, and then they get upset when a breeder doesn't want to sell them a snake, or they don't get the response they want, or whatever. It's like that
whole idea of, quote, the customer's always right. In my opinion, that goes so far flying out the window as soon as we're talking about especially living things. Like maybe the customer can always be right at like an Office Max or something. I don't know, like something inconsequential, but like, no, the customer is quite literally usually wrong when we're talking about, very, very specialized husbandry for reptiles, amphibians, things like that. I don't know. It's just that needs to go out the window, in my opinion, when you're talking about living things. And by the same token, the breeder's not always right either.
Sure,
Nobody's always
sure.
right.
Yeah, they're actually, so I did get a couple, so I try to always respond to comments, right? No matter what.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a couple people that like harped on there and like, you should be breeding if you don't have time. I was like, that's not how it works, and I'm going to explain why
And
really
that's not
quick.
your point either. You're not
Right?
saying you
No,
don't have
they've
time.
completely missed the point. I
Yeah.
can tell when people aren't listening; they're just commenting because they've
Right.
got a pre sort of thought out response. So
Right.
I can tell who those people are, and they miss the point. And usually I can give them one comment and they shut up after that. One guy actually tried to really shit on me, and I like went after him, and he pulled his entire comment thread. I was like, no, this is not how it works. This is not, you're wrong. Here's why. Here's example X, Y, and Z. And like an hour later, his entire comment thread was gone because he was in the wrong. But yeah, there's just, people are putting their time and effort into these animals, and if you are going to if you're just going to like, you know, act like they owe you that snake at whatever discount or eat shipping, like why would they want to work with you? If you come at somebody and you're like, hey, I really admire the work you've done with this line or this project or this species. I've been watching it from afar. You know, I can't afford them right now, but I just want to let you know, whenever I can, I'd really like to be able to buy one from you. Most breeders will tell you exactly like, oh, I've got some this year. I'll make some more, you know, no worries. Just hit me up when you're ready, sort of thing. But yeah, definitely don't start the conversation if you don't have money, but you can always say, you know, hey, I appreciate your work and this and that. And then when it does come time to buy, they can scroll up in the message and see that they've already messaged you once before and been respectful and polite and hey, so on and so forth. This is, you know, Riley. Now I'm in the market, you know, sort of thing. And
Right.
there's just a way to do it.
Yeah. It's a good way to shoot yourself in the foot for years to come if you hit somebody up, you know. How much for this snake? Can I get some pictures? The breeder accommodates you, and then you say, haha, maybe next time when I actually have the money. Like that's just,
Right.
you know, why did
Right.
you ask in the first place kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
and I understand life changes. So like I've had
right.
people hit me up. They're like, hey, when this clutch hatches, can you let me know? And then I hit them up. They're like, hey, I had to whatever. And I never, you know, get upset about that. That's also why I don't do deposits or down payments or any of that stuff, because I don't like committing to anything before it's, you know, even in existence or whatever.
Yeah. But
you know,
yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, to your point, there's different ways to initiate contact besides like pretending to be able to buy something you can't buy. Like for that very same situation, you just could have been like, I'm super stoked on your clutch. Like, I think that's awesome. And I can't get anything right now, but I'd love to like see more pictures, get more info, you know, like that's cool too.
Yeah.
And either they'll have time to get back to you on that or they won't. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like you're saying, I mean, it's just about some courtesy and trying to keep in mind
and
that
communication.
right, and trying to keep in mind that for most of these folks, like you're the thing you're contacting them about is an extension of their life. Like these people, most of us all have day jobs, we all have other things that's going on. Like not everybody is a full-time snake breeder that can just be at, you know, at beck and call all day. So
Right.
it's just, you got to keep perspective on stuff like that and not be too entitled. I don't know. I get what you're saying. And I think that a lot of, well, not a lot of people, but some people misinterpret it as like you saying,
People
like,
think it's arrogant.
right. But that's not your point. Like,
I'm not an arrogant person.
yeah.
It's really interesting though. I can see how they think it's arrogance if they're not listening. Like if they're not paying attention and they're not actually listening and they think I'm just some dude on a microphone saying you got to come correct or you get nothing. Like
Right.
I could see how an ignorant person who's not listening very closely would see that, but that's because they're an ignorant person. Now there's nothing wrong with being ignorant, but thinking that that's correct and not being able to admit when you don't know something, that's not necessarily okay. I think there's just, you know, there were a couple comments that really like absolutely highlighted the entire point of my video.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it was perfect. That one, the guy who actually deleted his whole comment thread, I was like, you're exemplifying exactly what this video is talking about. Like you are exactly the customer I'm talking about. and he deleted his comments. Why?
Hopefully he had a moment of realization.
Because I was correct.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's just all about being polite. I don't know Adam from Eve on the internet, but like I guarantee you, if I try and go and hit somebody up from somewhere online, the first thing I'm going to do is, "Hi, my name is so and so. I'm, in the market for X, Y, and Z. I saw this. I'm interested. Right. Is this still available?" That's how it goes. Mm-hmm. It's not like, "Hey, I was wondering if I could get some more photos, and if you do like $50 off," like, not even going to respond to that. Like, no.
Yeah.
You don't start by making demands. You start by showing respect. And I think that needs to become a standard. Just human kindness, respect. That's all it is.
That's what I really pulled from it the most, is just the lack of being a good person over the internet. Like, even people who would probably approach you completely different in person, there's just something about digital communication where for some reason people are just like, "Give snake me cheap." Like,
yeah, exactly. Robert says the perfect little line here. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth because we're supposed to listen more than talk. And I couldn't agree more.
I've never heard that. That's a good one, Robert.
Listen more than you speak. Soak it up. Learn what the traditions are. Learn what the standard is. Learn what the people who came before you have built.
You also have 2 eyes.
Yeah.
So by that logic,
you should be reading a lot more too. But yeah, no, I think the social media world has kind of made people forget some of the basics, common courtesy.
Yeah. And those folks are going to miss out. So,
yeah,
there is a little bit of built-in justice, but you'd like to see less of it.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. It's reptile natural selection, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Question.
Here's a good one. Let's pull it
says, up. Yes, I understand rarity and locality, morphin availability, but how is the general price market set for snakes? Like, how do breeders set their initial prices?
That's a really good question. And it's actually one of the hardest things for people breeding to do, unless there's like a well-established like precedent. Like Nick probably doesn't have a hard time because he's kind of been doing it for so long. He can look at the demand and what last year was at and kind of adjust accordingly.
And you can see his trends a little bit, like watching how he's treated the stonewash pricing over the years. He kind of has a little bit of a methodology, a little bit of formula, knowing how many of them there are because he created them.
Right. It's hard though, because it really does take a bit of comparative analysis, understanding the market demands, understanding kind of how much of that type of animal is out there, and then also understanding what realistically people are willing to pay for, and then taking into account some quality variation and
right.
There's a lot of other variables, but like you kind of look at what other things that are similar in the market are like and what people's response are. So like if you're trying to do jungles, okay, you kind of have like, this is the low end of what jungles are, and this is like the high end. So like, I don't know, what's a low end jungle? $250, a high end jungle $750. So there's your range. So you play within that, and then you just look at what other people are producing, the quality comparison. The other thing too is like, anybody can make a jungle, but somebody who's just making a jungle and doesn't have a name for themselves really is going to have a hard time commanding the same price as somebody who's already got an established, a high reputation for good quality, like David Haston, for example. He can command top shelf stuff all day because it's David Haston. He's got pure lineage. He's put in the work, the time, the effort. He's known for that, and he's done his due diligence. And so that creates value in that way. So there is some supply and demand. There is some availability, and that sort of creates the overall parameter and bumpers, if you will, for what the high and low end are. But then your quality animals, the animals producing them, so on and so forth. So it's not so cut and dry. Every time I have babies, that's like the hardest thing to figure out is like, what's the price? And so for me, I look to the folks who are maybe doing the most. So like Nick, again, because he does kind of produce stuff all across the board, he kind of is a good barometer of what sort of people are paying for.
And I
And
think that also a lot of value comes along with his work with lineage. At least for me, I find immense value in getting an animal with a detailed record of its background, compared to an animal that might look just as good, but what were the parents? Oh, I don't know. Got them at a pet shop. Like it's a different thing. But that just depends on whether you value that or not.
yeah,
That's more of a personal preference. But like you're saying, there's a lot of different things that can affect the value, the
sure.
perceived
And then
value.
your perceived value is different than a customer's perceived value.
Yep.
And then it also depends on what they want. Like somebody might just be a high end collector, and the price doesn't matter to them if it's the snake they want. They
Right.
understand that, and they'll do what it takes. And then there's people who maybe have a goal in mind for a breeding project or a look, and then they've shopped around, and as they've kind of looked around, they've gotten an idea of what all those prices are, and it sort of gives them a rough ballpark. So
Now,
yeah.
and this is a perfect opportunity to ask you, because what I was just going to say is I think where it gets tricky is when you're in that rare position to have something that has not previously existed. Because then you're kind of firing blind a little bit in terms of trying to figure out a price. So let's say, for example, you happen to be a guy named Riley that just hatched probably the world's first albino citrus tigers. So where do you go if you decide that you wanted to sell one, in terms of basically creating a price for something with no precedent set? I think that's where it gets tricky.
That's a scary thought. I have thought about that. It is scary.
That's kind of the more ambiguous side of this all, is when something pops out for the first time, and then it's like you can look at comps, but at the end of the day, you really don't have anything to compare it to.
Right. So I don't have anything to compare it to. Like I kind of know what the market sets for pure Darwin albinos right now. So I know that.
Right.
I know where Nick values his tiger albinos and how the market's response to that is. And that seems to be two semi-similar variables that I'll keep in mind. But ultimately, albinos and tiger albinos aren't the same as a citrus tiger albino, but then it also depends on how other people regard it, and so Eric has done a great job talking about it forever, generating this interest in it, and really shown the value in these animals. And Chris has a beautiful one. I have a couple beautiful ones. Like there's a lot of people who have a couple really nice citrus tigers. So I think it definitely is different. So it has that different aspect. It has that unique aspect. But yeah, I don't know how to figure that one out. Obviously, I'm in no rush. They just hatched out, but eventually,
and you might not even want to move them. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here.
I mean, but it is something I should think about. And then, there's the value they hold to me for the amount of time, work, and the anticipation. There's the value that Eric perceives them because of the time, work, and anticipation. And then there's the value that, my audience, my market, sees, and based on their anticipation and interest and whatnot. And so it really does come down to who would potentially be interested in buying it. And then the other thing is, and then there's the other thing, is it a project that needs to be strategically decided upon? I don't think it's like, it's not a species that's like in danger of going anywhere. So I don't think it has that like level of craziness, but it means a lot to me. It means a lot to Eric, and it means a lot to the other folks that are involved in it. So I owe it to everybody involved to maintain some value. So there's another consideration,
and you would probably talk to some of those folks, right? Like,
100%.
I think that's where my mind goes. Like if I'm lucky enough to produce like double visual stonewash stripes or something this year, or that's something where that precedent hasn't been set yet either.
Yeah, so you're going to be
Last year
talking to
was like
Nick and Casey and
exactly. I'll be
whoever.
calling Nick and I'll be asking what the heck he wants me to do.
Right. Because
Um,
there is something to be said for maintaining the integrity of a project
right.
because other people have,
Right.
set the groundwork for
And
for
chatting
you to do that.
with people that have had to make that kind of call before,
Right.
and yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't I'm not jealous of you being in that position. That's tricky. That's
Yeah,
tricky.
Eric and I will definitely be talking quite a bit about them. For me, the because of the origins of the project and whatnot, I've already told Eric he can have whatever he wants from that clutch. So he's gonna get to pick whatever he wants, and then from that point on, once he and I figure out what we want, then it's kind of looking at, okay, what's left? Because if there's only 2 or 3 albinos that he and I aren't keeping, then it's no longer 6 albinos that are available. It's like 2 or 3. And then, the gender and who they go to kind of matters to me because I don't want to just put out an albino citrus tiger to somebody who might like flip it or forget the information on it or it gets lost in the ether. I don't want to do that, but I can price it at a point that might keep somebody out of that contention. So there's some strategy in pricing, but like I also don't want to bottom out and undervalue like the value of Darwin albinos or Nick's tiger albinos or anybody else's projects. Like, but I don't know. It's tough. I'll tell you right now, if there are any albinos available in the future from this clutch, they are not going to be cheap.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So,
they
but
shouldn't be.
but that's the thing. I could, say I have a couple available and I put them up at what I think they're worth. If nobody buys them,
Right.
but then what that
Exactly.
tells me is that I value them differently than everybody else.
Yeah. Then you're getting your feedback. Yep.
Then
like I've seen that
then it becomes a decision like, do I want to cut the price and move them, or do they mean too much to me to do that?
Exactly. Like I've seen the world's first hypo stripe Bruttles on Nick's site. There's only 7 of them in the world until hopefully me and Nick and Brandon Wheeler make some more this year.
Right.
But those have been sitting on Nick's site. He put 2 up. He let 2 be available for $3,000 a piece, and they haven't been moved. So maybe that's something where that demand piece is kind of giving feedback, and we'll see what he does with it going forward.
Yeah. Ultimately, they're his snakes to do with what he pleases. So
exactly,
he's definitely influencing how the value changes, if at all, over time. He could choose to never drop the value on them and keep them, and then someday somebody might come around and still buy them, and then all of a sudden, you're halting the decline in value of something over time, because ultimately when something's new, its value is at its highest. Or if somebody rehashes something else and reinvigorates, a new angle to work with it, and then all of a sudden it grows value again. But it's all cyclical. It all changes. Things typically start high and gradually decrease, but
right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
And then when everybody forgets about them and they go back up with whoever that persistent son of a bitch is that kept doing them anyway, and then we see
and
it
they
go
come back around.
and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
beautiful.
All I know is that these are the first albinos I've hatched out, so this is pretty freaking cool.
That's awesome, man. And I'm so stoked for you.
I hope they all do well. I hope they thrive. I can't wait to see them shed. I can't wait to see kind of more clearly what's going on with them, pattern wise, color wise. Just really, really happy. And then the fact that they were maternally incubated is like even cooler.
Yep.
They all came out huge, man.
Nice. Yeah, that's what we're trying to see here with my little study.
That baby was 29 grams.
Yep. So another feather in that hat.
Yeah, they're all in the high 20s. There's a 30. There's a 30. So yeah, they're all big babies,
That goes to to that point.
Yeah, and the IJ babies, the pop ones that hatched out are in the low to mid 20s.
Hmm. It's very interesting.
It's like
I
a
mean,
20 to 25% difference.
give me about 3.5 months, and hopefully I'll be holding up my little first hatchlings too.
Yeah, man.
It takes so long.
Yeah, it's worth it though. And it's really easy to do maternal incubation if your ambient is in
Hmm.
acceptable parameters, your snake has kind of found where she wants to be, and you just let her go, let it ride. Dude, it's
Yeah,
easy. You do nothing. You do nothing. You
for
leave her
sure.
alone.
For
So
sure.
it's the coolest thing, man.
I
Maternal
can't
incubation.
wait.
I saw somebody post something that they got a small clutch of some coastals that was maternally incubated by a jag, and it didn't look like it went so well. I think they lost a lot of eggs, but man, that has not been my experience.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, only two times, small sample size, but it's so cool. It's so cool. Like
Yeah. I
the
have a
first time
feeling.
you see the little baby head poking out of mom's clothes, and you're like, they're hatching. They're hatching.
I could be proved completely wrong, but I have a feeling that this one up top, the one that's in pre-lay shed right now, I think she's going to be a good mom. I just have a feeling like
Mhm.
she's one of those ones that just seems pretty bright for some reason to
Yeah, yeah.
me, or at least very aware.
With
So
it.
I don't know. Yeah, she doesn't seem as stupid as some of my other animals. So hopefully she
Well,
proves me right.
it's interesting because some snakes will be good moms and some won't, and then some
Exactly.
years they'll change. Like my Xanic coastal, her first year scattered eggs everywhere. Second year beehived them. So
Hmm.
you know,
Depends on the day.
we have another question.
Yeah.
Supposed to hold off after the umbilical cord drops off food. So basically, my approach for babies with carpets, and I think this is kind of across the board, is not only do you wait for them to shed, but you wait a few weeks afterwards because they've just absorbed a bunch of yolk. They're chilling calorically. They've got plenty of what they absorbed out of the egg, or they should. So usually you don't get a lot of interest for the first few weeks. I find that if I start offering food, it's usually about 4 weeks after they've had their first shed. That's usually when I start offering new babies. They're just not always that hungry that early. I've had babies feed before their first shed, but it was like a baby that was taking months to have its first shed, and I was feeding everything else. So I was just like, you got to get going somehow. And that's not very common. I think I've only had that happen like 2 or 3 times, but yeah, it's interesting. Babies can take a long time before they want food, and then
Mhm.
yeah,
Probably
I mean,
depends on the species a little bit too.
yeah. Well, he's
Yeah.
got some albino Darwin
Okay.
two babies that hatched out, so uh, he's gonna
Nice.
have that experience. And I've heard that Darwins can be a little bit trickier with getting started,
Yeah.
at least in the States, not over in Oz. I don't know why. I don't know what we do different, but
Now, I've heard that Brettles can be a bit of a pain too, so that'll be fun for me.
yeah, definitely. Well, it's all about learning and having those experiences and trial and error. And along the way, you become more in tune with your animals, and you
Yeah.
just learn to really appreciate, the process. And trust me, that definitely gives you an idea of the value in your offspring, because you know
Mm.
how much work you put into getting them started and getting them established and
Yeah.
feeding, especially if they're tricky. You're not gonna take an animal that you put in a lot of work getting them going and feeding, and then somebody is gonna like lowball the heck out of your price. You're gonna feel very upset. Like the first
Man, yeah.
you're gonna be real disappointed that somebody
And
said
it
that to you.
it goes back to getting the parents in a position to even be ready to lay too. Like it's not just the babies.
Yeah, I
This is a
think I just
long series of events to get to a viable offspring.
mhm. I
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever really haggled much on price ever in buying a snake. I can't really think of
I've never done that.
any instance where I've been like, "Will you eat shipping, or can you do any better?" Like, I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Nah.
I just I also don't buy snakes a lot anymore, so I can't recall. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I can't say that.
Yeah, well, the thing for you is you go after stuff where you can't get it anywhere else, so you can't haggle.
That's
It's one
true.
of a
And I
kind.
wouldn't want to anyway. I
Yeah.
just can't, sometimes I can't believe that the opportunities are
Yeah.
are available to me. That most recent one was just right place, right time. You know what I'm talking about, but
that was just stupid.
That was so lucky.
It was just stupid. Yeah, that was not real.
No, and I'll fill everybody in later, but I don't want to put the horse in front of the cart and run it over.
Yeah. And next week, Eric will probably be back with us. He had a work meeting this week. So as you can tell, we've just been running loose here. But there's if you guys have been paying attention, you'll have noticed that the Australian Herpetological Podcast is out and up and running.
Yes.
Monitor Keeping Podcast has more episodes coming out left and right. We aired the Reptile Fight Club finally dropped. So that's another podcast under the NPR
episode
network.
2 right now. Yeah. Sensationalism. It's a good one.
I haven't started that one yet. That's going to be on for my cleaning later today.
It's fun.
What else? There's still the Patreon. There's the Teespring store. Check out NPR, MoreliaPythonRadioNetwork.com.
Yep. More Call Your Bird Corner coming soon, I think, after a little bit of a break, right?
Yep, we've got 2 more episodes already in the works. We're just getting those already going, and then we're going to be working on a few more. We've got a good long list going, so we'll be recording some more in a couple weeks, I think. And so there's 2 more that are in the lineup that'll be coming out in the next few weeks. Obviously, NPR is still going. You had a recent episode on your show, Humans of Herpeticulture. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. I'm not even going to try and.
Okay. Go to the website to see all the podcasts. There's a lot of them. There's probably something for you.
Yep. And for all of our patrons, I believe we are looking at this coming Sunday for the exclusive patron-only Q&A session. So check your emails for that. Definitely let us know if you don't get an email, because the first round, some emails didn't go through, I think. It's really easy for us to get it to you. We're just trying to make the system streamlined to double check that it works. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you're a patron in the Inland Carpet tier. And otherwise, we're going to jet on out of here. Ish says he hasn't been able to find Reptile Fight Club. It might still be coming up on Apple, but definitely check it out on Spotify. It's definitely on Spotify.
That's where I've been.
Apple Podcast just takes longer to approve certain shows nowadays. It can take up to a couple weeks sometimes. So, but you should definitely be able to find it. And without any further ado, we're going to let you all get back to your Mondays. Thank you for joining us. If you're listening to the recording episode, we hope you enjoyed the casual banter of the interns this week. And Eric will be joining us next week again, hopefully. And we'll just keep this this coffee chat going.
Absolutely. Riley, thank you. Everybody, thank you for joining us. And I hope everybody has a great week.
Yep.
Catch you next week.
Adios, muchachos and muchachas.
Bye.
Bye.